Lots going on in the world, including President Trump's address to the nation, which apparently I missed, but hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. I don't know, maybe Jim Eade or Rick Rosler saw it, but apparently I missed it and everything like that. Trump says Iran no longer a threat. The U.S. will keep hitting countries very hard in the next phase, and he was addressing the nation to provide an update on the Iran war. The Atlantic said maybe Trump should not have given this speech. And Trump said the U.S. will bomb Iran back to the Stone Ages over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And President Donald Trump attended the Supreme Court arguments on citizenship. So Trump will lose the birthright citizenship case, but in a way he's already won, is what the New York Times is saying. So definitely we'll see how this goes. And some folks are asking how the SCOTUS birthright case could affect Bexar babies and everything like that. And there's even some people, including CNN, that are asking why Trump might regret his historic visit to the Supreme Court. So definitely a lot's going on in the Trump world and everything like that. Oil prices jump after Trump calls for others to take the lead on the Strait of Hormuz. So we're definitely hearing a lot about that as well. And Amy Coney Barrett unraveled the case against birthright citizenship, apparently with one question. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about as well. And I'd be curious to find out what that one question was and everything like that. UK to host talks with 35 countries on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So UK is gathering, in one reported saying more than 40 countries to plot ways of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So we'll see if this all works or doesn't. Iran fires missiles at Israel and Gulf neighbors as Trump talks of winding down the Mideast war. And there was a magnitude 7.4 earthquake that struck Indonesia. So Indonesia earthquake damages buildings, but tsunami alerts have been lifted. So that was a powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake. And that's definitely what's going on in that part of the world. Fortunately, there wasn't many casualties. They said it toppled buildings. So far, only one person has been reported killed and set off small tsunamis. So hopefully the death toll won't rise, or if it rises, won't rise too much. Israeli death penalty law marks a new phase in its dehumanization of Palestinians, is what The Guardian is saying. And Israel death penalty law targeting Palestinians sparks global outcry as far right celebrates. So 8 countries condemned Israel's one-sided death penalty for Palestinians. And after sting operation, cousin of Bashar al-Assad has been convicted in arms for drug deals. So definitely that's something going on as well. And like we said yesterday, Donald Trump is considering a United States withdrawal from NATO. Trump has threatened to leave NATO over Iran. There are a few signs that's happening. So every Trump threat to abandon NATO hollers it out. So Trump suggests in a new interview he is absolutely considering withdrawing the U.S. from what he's calling the paper tiger NATO. So we'll see what goes on in that space and if that's a agency that we withdraw out of. Wartime fuel shortages spawn panic and robberies and killings in Asia, and it all depends on the crisis. Gulf crisis hits South Asian farmers, and we know that it's also been hitting U.S. farmers as U.S. fertilizer traders eye windfall abroad as war upends the market. So UK's food inflation could triple by year end due to the Middle East war, is what a trade group is saying. So definitely it's impacting a lot, even in terms of food supply. An Hungarian opposition Tisza party cements lead ahead of April election, polls show. Orban constantly vetoes Europe braces for the Hungary election. Rival team of vote observers spell trouble in the Hungarian election. So that's something else that we're hearing as well. And from international outcast to mediator in Iran war, Pakistan's remarkable makeover. So Pakistan to continue with Iran-U.S. mediation despite obstacles. So Islamabad talks signal emergence of new four-nation bloc in the Middle East. So it looks like there might be a new bloc in that area. And there was a Uganda school attack. 4 children stabbed to death in Kampala. So 4 children killed in a nursery school stabbing attack in Uganda. It was a machete wielding man that attacked that area and everything like that. So definitely lots going on in that part of the world. Let's see what's happening in the U.S. and then I'll bring in my folks. I know I've got at least 2, and we'll see if we've got others as well. Christina Marie Plant was found alive after 32 years. A girl who went missing at 13 years old in 1994 is found alive. Arizona woman who went missing without a trace 32 years ago is found alive. So that's some good news and everything like that. So the sheriff in one of the Arizona towns said that she might have vanished 32 years ago, but she has been miraculously found alive. And supporters of household voting believe U.S. would be better off without women's vote. So that's being reported in the New York Times. That's a definitely scary article and scary thought and everything like that. Georgia's GOP Senate primary is a mess. Republicans are blaming each other. Republicans are mad that Brian Kemp is standing by his Georgia Senate endorsement. Georgia could swing the Senate, but early consensus leans blue. And congressional leaders in the White House agree on a plan to end the DHS shutdown. Top Senate Democrats say House Republicans caved as deal to fund DHS moves forward. GOP infighting, Democrats' unmet needs, and a clear windfall. Who's winning and losing the DHS shutdown is even what Fox is asking. So definitely there's a lot of things going on in that space. And there was an article on NPR asking if Trump's tariffs worked. This is where things stand a year after Liberation Day. So 1 year from Trump's Liberation Day, global investors are rethinking American exceptionalism. So a year later, that's where things stand on Trump's manufacturing revival. And I mentioned the earthquake that was going on in Asia. There was a magnitude 4.6 earthquake that shook California's Bay Area. So 4.6 magnitude earthquake shakes California, centered in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So there was an earthquake in that way as well. So let's go see what other folks have got going on in their news. By the way, police are investigating the death of Coral Springs Vice Mayor Nancy Meteor Bowen. So she was found dead. Her husband is in custody, police say. So he's been booked into jail on murder charges. So Florida Democratic Party vice chair found dead, and apparently the husband is suspected. And like I said yesterday, the courts have suspended the construction of the ballroom. So that was suspended by a federal judge, and we'll see how long that suspension lasts and everything like that. And of course, King Charles the third is invited to address joint meeting of Congress. So King Charles and Camilla will be meeting President Trump on their U.S. state visit in April. So it looks like they're coming here from the rural area and all along those lines. But I've got a couple of folks with me, a couple of Californians, and of course I got somebody from Spain. So I'm gonna bring in Jim Eade and Rick Rosner and see how they're doing, especially since there was an earthquake and everything like that. You'll see when Nick wants to join us, since I don't see him on camera yet and everything like that. So how are you gentlemen doing? How's things in California? It's there were threats of thunderstorms here in North Carolina, but I don't know if they materialized because I was asleep.
It's nice here. We've had a hot week last week. It's cooler here. I didn't feel the earthquake. Jim, did you feel it?
I did. I was woken up, and it's no longer the shock that it was when I first moved to California in 1978. But it was enough to wake me up, and I heard some rattling, but there was no damage. There was nothing like that. So, I went right back to sleep.
Speaking of breaking your sleep, I know that I had other things to do, so I did not break my sleep. I might have been even watching reruns of old TV shows, but I did not break my sleep or my old habits, including doing some podcast shows, to watch President Trump's speech. So I can't say what he said other than what I've read. So did either one of you gentlemen bother to watch this speech, and what did you think of the speech?
I had a meeting that I missed it, but I read about it, and the stock market was not impressed. The stock market opened like down 1%, and oil opened up, like 8%. Now oil is 113 a barrel.
This is my stock market screen. All red.
Yeah.
All red.
Yeah, gas is went up another 2 pennies to 4.08 a gallon nationwide average. But I talked to my Trumpy friend Lance, who said things are going great and that the liberal media just lies to us.
Well, that's what he says and everything like that. Nick, you were in Spain. Did you watch the speech in Spain and everything like that? Because it probably was early in the morning for you.
It's too early here in Spain, but Spain is pretty interesting. We're kind of off the grid, so we don't rely on fossil fuels for our energy. So the energy costs have not gone up here at all. And frankly, since we're so independent from America, Pedro Sanchez, our PM, told Trump in the U.S. to go stick it. Because
what do you use, solar and wind? I know Spain is like a big
wind. I mean, it's just that they have huge solar farms. They decided in 2019 to get off the grid and get away from fossil fuels. So most of the energy comes from solar right now.
I feel like Spain looks like the western half of the U.S., like big expanses of
Yeah, well, they also have greenhouses that are so big they supply food, and the food here is just unbelievably inexpensive. It's almost like free, you
Well,
know. So it's just it's a little different environment here in Spain than it is in the rest of the world, and we're staying out of the conflict, so they're
you
very
were speaking of staying out of the conflicts. Apparently, there is a conflict that's been going on because apparently we're trying the gentleman that used to lead the country. But earlier today, the U.S. lifted sanctions on Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, and they apparently are opening the door for asset controls. And I know that they've been talking even here on this network about maybe we're going to go in there and seize their oil since we've got this oil crisis and everything like that. So apparently, we've lifted sanctions against Venezuela's Delcy Rodriguez. So, Jim, any thoughts on this? Because I know that you follow world stuff and definitely stuff in Latin America. So, any thoughts on us lifting these sanctions and maybe going to commandeer the oil?
Well, yeah, you follow the oil, which is the new take on follow the money. Whenever you're wondering about what is motivating Trump, and so not only we used to export democratic values, now we're importing czarist values, and part of the thing is we used to be disliked around the world because we would go in and take resources, and Trump is doing just that, and this is the worst of the country. But what's the best part of the country, I think, is going to fix what's wrong. And I think once the midterms arrive, we'll see that the country does not want to be going down this path. Trump also was able to stop a French company from building wind plants around the state of Rhode Island and invested $2 billion into oil utilities in Texas. So, he has steering the money to the red states, trying to punish the blue states. And, all of this is the recipe for disaster because we're trying to be the United States and he's trying to make them the divided states of America. And, we're not going to go very far along this path. And how much more damage can he do? Because he's so unpredictable. We don't know what he's going to do tomorrow.
We don't know what he's going to do. He was waving a sword around at some in some speech that he was giving. I think it was among some of the military and everything, and he was waving it around like it was a toy, like he was a child and everything like that.
Yeah.
I do see that Maine is about to become, because we sometimes talk about AI and data centers, but apparently Maine is about to become the first state to ban new data centers. So you won't be seeing any new data centers in Maine and everything like that. So I guess they've got enough. They don't need any more.
Well, they hog a lot of energy. They require a lot of energy, and so this is one of the things that's kind of the data centers are necessary to support artificial intelligence, the generation of artificial intelligence that companies are figuring out ways to use to make them more profitable, which ends up in loss of jobs, of course. But the other thing I wanted to point out about what Trump is doing when he's saying NATO is a paper tiger. NATO was formed as a mutual defense organization, and so what Trump did is instead of finding allies and supporting his actions, his war of choice in Iran, what he's done is taken unilateral action and then said, "Why aren't you supporting me?" Right. And he doesn't understand what NATO was formed to do.
It's not a mutual offense organization,
right?
Yeah, that's not what it was intended to do and everything, but he's impacting other things as well. I just saw an article where a Tennessee library director, Luann James, was fired over LGBTQ books because apparently she refused to move more than 100 books from the children's to the adult section. So now they have fired her because she refused to move those books and everything like that. So I guess they were feeling that because they had LGBT subject matter, that they needed to be in the adult section and everything like that. So we'll see how this plays out. But definitely people are trying to dictate what people's policies are, even though it's not in their own area and everything like that. Hey, Nick, I got a question for you that's a legal question because I can't remember. Maybe Rick can correct me, but is Ted Bundy still alive? And if so, why do we care about his being found? Because apparently new DNA tests have confirmed that he killed a Utah teen in 1974. So they are confirmed that he killed 17-year-old Laura Ann Aim and everything like that. So it looks like they are identifying another victim because this is a new victim because he had plenty of victims.
He's probably been dead for close to 30 years?
This is one reason you need data centers, because it has all the information at your fingertips on
Hey,
AI.
what this is for.
So
So
even the main,
I have astronaut information. So the Artemis astronauts are on their way around the moon. It's a
Right.
10-day mission. They're not going to land on the moon. They're just going to do a big old flyby.
Sure.
And yesterday, a newspaper published a list of all the great food they'll be eating. And I'm like, okay, great food, but you don't want to eat much of it because you don't want to poop in space. However, because the Apollo astronauts like kind of had diapers, I believe, something miserable, right? Turns out that there's enough room in the Artemis capsule that they have a little bathroom chamber with a door, so they can actually go to the bathroom in private.
Goes to the
Oh,
bathroom.
really? That's good.
They've also been talking about
that's
having
pretty important. It's like
relationships
flying
up
on
there
airplanes.
as well. So I know you've been pushing for that, and they've been talking about
If you
that.
take off your spacesuit in the bathroom, it's still going to have the same consequences.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great. They still have to use, like, since it's weightless, they still have to use some kind of vacuum thing to like capture everything, and it's
capture everything and then throw it back out into space. I'm sure space is going to
well,
love
no, they throw the pee into space.
Right.
Pee is fine in space. They keep the poop and bring it back.
They've been
Whoa,
They
great.
also have an exercise machine,
Lunar
some
poop.
kind of treadmill with rubber bands that, like, they say the capsule has as much cubic footage as 2 minivans. So
Rick, and
said a lot of
in
people
the
are
Artemis
doing
news
that in
and
my
everything like that. But I have another science question for y'all, because I know about Groundhog Day and everything like this. But apparently in California, y'all have this thing where there's like supposed to be peak snow on April Fool's, April 1st, and everything like that. So apparently that didn't happen. So California is in for an ugly summer amid one of the worst snowpacks on record. So do y'all have like y'all's version of?
we just saw a report from Mammoth, the ski resort, that says the skiing's great right now. So I don't know, but yeah, we've had probably more years of drought in the past 30 years than we've had of not drought. But I don't know, the last year we did well. This year, I don't know, less well.
And they're predicting it's going to be even less well this year, because they're predicting an ugly summer based on this snowpack, which I guess would be the California version of a groundhog. So, like I said, it's the California version. Even of the groundhog.
I mean, the trouble is, one problem is, you can maybe criticize forest management, maybe not. That's a political football. But the deal is that, for forever in California, in Colorado, we've been building towns way too close to forests. And now forests are more likely to go up in flames because of climate change. So,
and
by the way, Mark had a very famous artist on the online dinner party yesterday. The person does he does the artwork for the Olympics.
He did the artwork for the Olympics. Stephen R. Allen. He's also done it for the World Cup. He's also has exhibits in the Smithsonian. He lives in Atlanta and was originally from Raleigh. Also had a young woman that you would be interested in, Jim Eade, that wrote a book called Scar of Shame, because as a 3-year-old, she had to rescue her mother and did not succeed because her father was abusive and everything like that. So she was definitely dealing with some other stuff, and has written this book about how that impacted her into her adult life, because she's now living in one of Nick's old territories of Utah and everything like that. So she's now living in Utah, but she talks about what she went through and how that made her the person that she is, because she had to she was adopted after that incident. I think her mother did not survive and her dad was abusive.
Yeah, and another piece of news that only chess players interested in: Sidorov beat Caruana and is leading the candidates. How do you pronounce his name?
Fabio.
Fabio. Anyway, he leads the candidates by like a point, which is huge.
Yeah,
and people don't understand that he's really taken off. And Fabio claims to be from my state of Florida. And Florida claims him too, so he's the highest rated player in Florida right now.
He claims Florida is
where I was the state champion
He was the state champion.
That's
Y'all
right.
claim him. He claims Florida. There is another event going on this weekend, which is the Final Four in both women's and men. But while I was not watching the president, I did watch a little bit of a new basketball series called The Crown. So The Crown is a new basketball playoffs. It's got like 8 teams and everything. So they
Yes.
are playing games.
Stanford's playing.
It's all in Las Vegas and everything like that. And there is now something that I did not realize, but I was watching TV. And it's a sport that a lot of people may be surprised is out there, because I know there's a cheerleading competition, which I know Jim might be interested in watching, and Rick and others as well. But apparently there is a women's hockey league that is out there now too. So there's a women's hockey league that apparently is doing quite well and everything like that. So there is women playing hockey in the traditional way of hockey, and they're out there on the networks and everything like that.
Let's
So
go back to, can we go back to Final Four for just a sec? For the second year in a row,
Yeah.
the 4 number 1 women's seeds are in the Final Four,
Yes.
which means that a lot of people's brackets are not busted. If you do what I used to do every time I filled it, which is just go with the, based on the seeding, just pick the favorites. Some years that works, some years it doesn't. This year, if you did that,
even if you did that, there's still been various upsets. It's impossible almost to get a perfect bracket. There, one gentleman was going to have the perfect bracket that was actually in the women's Final Four that he had it, and when there was an upset, I think it was either Virginia or somebody lost, even though the number ones won. His bracket was busted as well. It was a young man that was
okay, but I mean, everybody's bracket gets broken. Nobody has a perfect thing, but you want to be in a position to get all those points. The big points are at the end. For the final games, you know, you're screwed if none of your picks are still playing. But if you just went with the number 1 seed, all your picks are still in there, and you might get some more, because you know, in an office pool, each round the points you get for each prediction doubles. So the ones at the end are worth a lot of points.
Yeah. The lowest seed is the number 3 seed in the men's side. So you know, it's been the favorites have been doing so well. UConn is the number 2, and there's the number 3 seed, and the 6 number 1 seeds.
Yeah, and their favorite to win and everything like that. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how that goes. They've got a tough game. They're playing against a masterful coach, Don Staley, but even she's admitting she's got a hard road ahead of her playing against Connecticut. Connecticut's been very tough to beat.
She's a great coach
this year and everything like that. But
yeah,
one can never tell.
UConn's unbelievable. Again, coming from Stanford, as a Stanford fan, longtime season ticket holder, I can tell you how good UConn is.
Yes, UConn is very good.
They're the winningest program in you know, even better than John Wooden's UCLA team, I think.
Well, yeah. I hate to admit it, and I still have friends that are UConn supporters, and you know, I'm losing a lot of text wars.
You're losing a lot of text wars.
I saw you for a second, and yeah, I enjoy the college sports, but they've changed dramatically. What we've seen now is that money talks.
Money talks. There's definitely a lot of money in college sports. You got the NHL. A lot of people are leaving. Actually, my college has already had 2 players. One that was very much injured. Another one that had some other stuff going on that have already committed to going into the portal, because the portal you can leave. We've had a couple of great players like our point guard and his roommate that is a guard as well, and I think one of the forwards that have said that they're coming back, but definitely 2 of them have already said we're out. We're going to go make the money. So this
and
is
you're a high school senior, and you're talented basketball player. Are you going to go to the college of your choice, or are you going to go to the one that pays you the most?
Right.
You know, so what are we teaching them right away? You know, and then when they're there for a year, they can transfer to another college that pays them more. You know, part of the joy of watching college sports and year after year after year is you see them come in as freshmen and graduate as seniors. You know, that's not the case anymore. Plus, we've destroyed the conferences now. There's now the Big Ten is expanding, SEC is expanding, and they're becoming power conferences. And we had the Pac-12 became the Pac-10, and now there's no more Pac anything.
Yeah, and a lot of them are misnumbered, because I think the Big 12 may have more than 12 teams. I think some of the other ones, like the Big 10, I think has more than 10 teams. And then, as you know, Jim, there's conferences that are like the super conferences, because the ACC covers all the way from, I want to say, yeah, St. John's is there, from New York down to
Duke.
Florida, down to either Georgia or Florida. I can't remember which is the furthest without the thing.
Yeah, Florida State or something.
And going all the way out to the West Coast because Stanford is part of
Stanford and Cal. They both,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I grew up in the Big Eight, where it was, we every year, University of Colorado, my hometown school, would play Nebraska and Oklahoma, and they were our hated. All that's been broken apart. But going back to Wooden, John Wooden, who had the great teams of the 70s, he had a pyramid of values like loyalty, modesty,
Yes.
and we need a new pyramid of values, because if you have Wooden's values, you're screwing yourself, because you need to get out there and maximize. You're being irresponsible to you. If you're a star, you're being irresponsible to yourself and your family if you're not maximizing your monetary value in college.
And it's not just the guys, it's the women as well, because I just saw yesterday, the Lady Vols, which is Tennessee guards, Mia and Maya Paldy, have entered the transfer portal to leave their school. So they're definitely...
that they should do that. You need to. Loyalty is not like it's. If everybody else is doing it, you need to do it too.
And even their leading scorer is leaving too. So it looks like three of them. So
if you're at
Paul does, as well as Talisha Cooper, are all in the transfer portal. So it looks like.
So yeah, if you're at one school and you're able to get $150,000 for your name, image, and likeness, but if you move to another school, you can get $2 million. Well, you have to make the move.
Well, I'm all in favor of the name, image, and likeness. Because there's no reason that the athletes shouldn't get paid for all the publicity and all the money that they draw into the colleges and universities. But, I don't think that portal, there's got to be some penalty you pay when you transfer. It used to be when you transferred, you had to sit out a year. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but maybe there should be only one portal allowed, one transfer. If you go to a university in college and you don't like it, you should be allowed to transfer. That's okay. But doing it to make more money, that's teaching them absolutely the wrong values. And how could you criticize someone from doing that?
Yeah, speaking of criticizing, I see Kim's with us as well. She just came back from the Tower of Power of DC and everything like that. But Tiger Woods has been in trouble again with another automobile accident. And apparently yesterday he turned down the U.S. Ryder Cup captaincy in 2027 and was allowed to withdraw from that. So now they figure out who's going to be running that competition. It's an international competition as well, because he was been granted permission to leave the U.S. So apparently Tiger is going to do a Nick and run away and go someplace else, because he's been granted permission to leave.
Hear that, Nick? Nick actually had always dreamed of, I shouldn't say always dreamed of this, but talked about it for quite some time, to be able to just travel abroad and feel free to travel wherever he wanted to at a nice pace and still, work, because he enjoys working. So I am happy that he was able to make his dream come true. And I think, we all kind of know that story where he did the Ancestry.com thing and the blood test, the DNA, and he discovered one of his grandfathers or great-grandfather was royalty.
He's been
but I like to pick on him. It was royalty that got kicked out of Spain.
He's been running that into the ground ever since.
To America. So,
he's been running that into the ground ever since. I did see, because you've got some ties to the state. The state has a new coach. UNC does not have a new coach. They're still trying to figure out who their new coach is going to be, because there's been people like Donovan and others that are being recruited. But Justin Gainey, who is a former Cincy State player, will be the new coach here in the Raleigh area and everything like that. So we'll see how that plays, because he's going to have to deal with the NIL, which we were talking about as well, and also these TV contracts.
Well, I just, the last coach I strongly remember at NC State is Valvano.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anyone can ever replace his passion, his presence. And then, of course, we have, Dean from UNC Chapel Hill that the Four Horsemen always respected. I've met a couple of them, going in and out of RTP to meet people, and you bump into them and they're very respectful. I mean, these guys, when they see a woman is sitting down at a table and no one's getting her chair, they'll get up and go over and get the chair for her.
Yeah.
I mean, and I ask them, I go, why do you do that? And they go, are you kidding me? If Coach Dean saw me not pulling out a chair for someone, I get the head slap. And he said, and I think he'd do it from the grave. So to still see the respect that these ball players have for their previous coaches in the past is profound to me.
It's very profound because I've seen the pleasure of meeting a couple of them, leading some Duke players and some UNC players, North Carolina Central, and a number of others as well. But I got a question for you folks that are into investment. We were talking about investment earlier and everything like that. But apparently, this person that used to be involved with politics, Elon Musk, has vowed to go public with SpaceX. So he's seeking a massive market debut. What is this going to do? Is this going to be a good investment? Are you going to be investing, Jim? You do a lot of investing, so are you going to?
Oh heck, no, not okay. So I've kind of worked on some of the space programs with the ultra wealthy, and you know what, the money's good coming from them, and things take off and go. But no, I'm not going to just purely because I see what they're doing. I don't think you're going to get your return on investment back. Now, I think it's Elon Musk makes, a couple million a year going up and picking up garbage and bringing it back or sending it. I don't know which direction he carries the garbage. I know that, that all these ultra rich men, they have these contracts with the U.S. to send ships up there. Richard Branson doesn't. I kind of like Origin. Was it Virgin Origins?
Virgin.
I've been to their space labs, and he likes just his own thing, his own space, right? And he even builds his own parts out of a metal 3D printer. He owns one of the 3 that exist in the world, and so I like what he does. And if he asks for investment money, maybe, but anything that goes into space, I think it's too big of a risk. That's my.
You mentioned space garbage. The trouble is there's so much junk in orbit right now, like dead satellites, parts of satellites. And the deal is to orbit, you're generally moving at about 25,000 miles an hour. So if two things, in different paths, they crash, they make a bunch more space shrapnel. So there does need to be a garbage pickup service in orbit to get some of this stuff out of there.
So we gotta have our space sanitation workers and our space garbage.
There also needs to be a sitcom about a bunch of screw ups who can't get jobs on Earth and they're sent into orbit to be space janitors.
There you go, the space trash man. Garbage pickup.
I like the idea. Hey, Jim, just really quickly, because I was curious about whether you were going to invest in SpaceX as well. But also, because I know that on the investment show, y'all have talked about Ozempic and other weight drugs, and apparently Eli Lilly's obesity pill has been approved by the FDA. So that's going to set up fierce competition with Novo Nordisk and Ozempic and other ones. So are you going to invest in Eli Lilly? Because apparently they've got a new weight loss pill called Found Aoya. But it looks like it's a new.
There is an obesity crisis in the United States, and I'm not entirely convinced that taking a weight loss pill will compensate for what's going on and why people seem not to be able to eat and be more healthy themselves. Because I think, what we've seen is kind of a yo-yo effect. You can drop the pounds and then put them back on and, go on the pill again. The pill meant something different to me in the past. And, which makes me think, Kimberly, I grew up with women. If I held the seat out for them, they'd punch me.
Yeah,
because they could do it themselves.
Well, I'm from the South, and it's a gesture that hasn't been seen in a long time. Yeah. But I will tell you this: those gentlemen who played for Coach Dean, they still do it.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for values.
I'm
Yes,
going to take the opposite point of view. When 75% of Americans are overweight, it's not the fault of the overweight Americans. If food is so tasty that 3/4 of Americans can't stop eating it, it's the food's fault. It's not Americans' fault.
Well, it's not the tastiness so much as it is the lack of nutrients in the food that
They
they
should
consume.
Yeah,
just
but again, it's not the individual consumer's fault.
That's correct. I agree with that.
it's not
And
the-
also,
Then they
okay,
should just feed us prison food, and we're good.
well, I mean, in
well, I
the
don't know. Some of the
Depression-
food I've been told in
in the
prisons is
Depression,
actually not that bad.
there was this
I wanna
there was
find out.
this Eleanor
I don't want to find out
Roosevelt,
either.
and Eleanor Roosevelt in the 1930s had this loaf that was noodles and milk and salt and pepper, and it didn't taste very good. And the idea was it had all the nutrients you needed, but you didn't want an extra slice because it tasted like crap, so you wouldn't eat more of it, which was good because your family, because it was a depression, couldn't afford to give you an extra slice. So if you look at recipe books from the 50s and the 40s, the food is disgusting. And and then food got good. Food science made food awesome.
From
But
our
You
Yeah,
add a little bit of cinnamon and seasonings to it, and you got bread pudding. So I mean, the women of the South, we got a little creative during the
Yeah, but then you had
Depression.
two
Go out-
It was made out of the Depression era and everything like that. Not only that, but there was some great food venues and everything like that. If you watch Happy Days, you know that's the kind of the era of the 50s and right after the Depression that the drive through became popular. The drive through is still very popular and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, that's where a lot of the young teenagers were hanging out if you followed
That's
the
it,
storyline
yeah.
of Happy Days.
Where I hung out. Yeah.
We actually have once a month a big thing downtown Raleigh once spring hits, but they're not doing it this weekend, probably because of the green storm. But they do a big screen like the outdoor movie theaters that we used to have, and they do a free movie,
Yeah.
and you just bring your own chair or blanket, and you sit outside just like you used to do at an outdoor movie theater if you didn't have a car, and you just bring your picnic and sit and enjoy. And I'm still thankful that we do that because it's fun. I love to go people watch. Even if I go by myself, I enjoy it. You know?
Kim, even Full Frame does that, and Full Frame is what used to be Double Take. So
Okay.
it's one of the largest
Yeah.
documentary film festivals. That's this month. I think it's the middle of April, like around the 15th
sure
or
is.
something like that. But I know it's the middle of April. But at least 1 or 2 days of the festival, they use Central Park and they show a free film outside. So you don't even have to pay for that film and everything like that. So they do the same thing here in Durham. Now the other films, you have to go to the various outlets and pay a fee to go to those films, but they're amazing documentaries about all kinds of great folks and everything.
Well,
Hey Jim, I had another question.
I want to say something. I feel blessed to be in the RTP area because every you have first Friday in downtown Raleigh, second Friday in downtown Durham, and third Friday I think in Chapel Hill. But each Friday they picked a different Friday, thank God, and so you can go enjoy this monthly activity in 3 different cities. And I might got those mixed up, but at the beginning of the Friday of each week of every month, there's something to do, and it's pretty fabulous. And folks, if you are in North Carolina, we have a NASA group here, and the first Friday, if it's clear outside, they have a farm they go to north of Raleigh that you can go look through their telescopes. They bring big size telescopes out there,
That's
and you
cool.
can go and enjoy the night sky and a lecture, and it's actually pretty cool. So
And we've also got Moorhead Manor in Chapel Hill, which has a great telescope and a number of other things as well. Hey Jim, I got a question for you because are more of these companies going to start doing public? Because as I was scanning business news, also saw that OpenAI is starting to open the door to individual investors. So they just closed a record-breaking 122
who owns
billion.
OpenAI now? Anybody know? Anyone? No, I haven't looked that up.
Yeah, I want to move back to a couple of nonsense stories.
Go for it.
So I think Kristi Noem's husband is kind of a genius, where she's been screwing around. She's kind of an a-hole, and she's been screwing around on him for years, very publicly. So the New York Times yesterday went to his hometown, their hometown, where he's an insurance agent and fairly beloved. Noam and he were high school sweethearts. They've been together for decades and decades, 40 years maybe. And people like him there. And even after the pictures of him posing with big fake boobs came out, people say they feel sorry for him and that they still think he's a great guy. So he had his revenge. She's screwing around and he's showing what he did in desperation for some kind of sexual comfort. That just makes her look like the bigger jerk.
I think it's all a little OTT drama, but yeah, I mean, I think he is definitely craving some sympathy, attention, and so he's reaching out.
We didn't want the pictures. They say
Yeah,
the pictures may have been leaked by Stephen Miller, who's the creepy guy who's behind Trump's immigration policy and who's a terrible guy in every possible.
He does look very Nazi-like. Whenever I see him, he just seems like.
But you know what? When I was there in DC, everybody's getting that Nazi buzz cut. And it might be the Senate barbershop because
he doesn't have any
downstairs. Hair. Yeah, we went downstairs to the cafe. The Senate cafe sucks, let me tell you. That is the suckiest, most disgusting cafe I've ever walked in. That's why I realized most of the aides go over to the Union Station to get their lunch and food. But they have a barber shop that's very luxurious. Oh my God. When you walk in, it is just phenomenal sweet. I don't know if they get free jobs done in there or not, but they're all getting that Nazi cut look. It's freaky.
Yeah, tight on the sides, the fade.
Yeah, where it's tight on the sides, they all look like Joe Bogian, whatever his name is. But I was definitely kind of like wondering where all this was coming from, and it might be the manufacturer downstairs in the basement called the barbershop. I will say this: the Congress, the Rayburn building, if you want good coffee and good food and good service and beautiful place to sit, go to their cafe. The Congress Cafe is, first off, they're on the first floor, not the basement, and it's just super nice and super friendly, and and coffee, wow, the best coffee. So the Congress know how to treat their people. So I
want to go back to one more. I've got one more nonsense thing, which is the WNBA. We've been talking about sports values, right? So the WNBA, about half of the players post thirst traps online. A thirst trap is where you throw up hot pictures of yourself in a bikini or underwear. And, and a lot of these women look like models because when you're 6'2" and you weigh like 150 pounds, those are model dimensions. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why would these women be so sleazy and where are their morals? It's not that. Caitlin Clark and Cameron Brink, Caitlin Clark is the most famous WNBA player likely right now.
Well, Caitlin Clark got an interesting proposal.
Let me get these players. Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink, they get paid $78,000 a year to play in the WNBA. $78,000. Teachers make more than that. They absolutely have to maximize their financial returns by being influencers, by being models. Caitlin Clark doesn't go the model route, but she's in a zillion commercials, and they have to do it because otherwise they're not maximizing their financial return. $78,000 is ridiculous.
Their height and weight, what did you say, 6'2" and 150 pounds? Yeah, that is total. Try being 5'2" and 150 pounds. You don't get it. There is, unless you're like this, but no, I mean, there's a lot to be said about them maximizing their asset, and their asset is their body. their physique, their physicalness, their, you know, and I would say go for it. You know, why not? If you
Well,
have
Mecca
it,
Gumake led the Players Association in current CBA agreement, and they are going to get paid more. But
Yeah,
Rick's
they're
point
definitely going to
remains.
get paid more because they made
yeah,
that agreement and everything. That's a great agreement that
they
to
need
have
that
and
agreement.
everything like
But
that.
yeah, they should
So,
go.
I gotta ask Jacoby
so
something.
just to jump in on that one, one of the individuals that really points out the issue with money in women's sports and so on and so forth, and why they're doing that, was Alana Marr, who's been doing a lot of photos on Instagram and actually promoting herself that way. And it's been doing really well and actually promoting the sport of rugby. And the more people see these individuals, you know, from Cameron Brink to whomever, they get hooked on that casual fan, or they get that casual fan. That casual fan then starts watching the actual sport. So that's the whole real point behind it.
Is she
Ken Brink was
the
on the
Olympic
cover of
rugby
the
player who went on Dancing with the Stars? Yeah, she's awesome. It's like, and you know, and this is another problem with AI where it's changed the world of work, where AI chews up old traditional jobs that used to pay well. In the 50s, where like the dad could have a job and then the mom could stay home, and that was enough for them to have a little house and everything. In this, you know, it wasn't like this for everybody in America, but it was a possible way to be. Now those jobs are way gone. And instead, we have OnlyFans and Uber driver and these terrible half jobs where, you know, the work has gotten goofy for a lot of people.
Yeah, work has gotten goofy and everything like that. I had a question for Jacoby as well as Jim, and maybe you want to answer it, Rick, and Kim as well. But I know that the hockey playoffs are being set. Carolina will be in the playoffs, as will Florida and everything like that. I remember when hockey used to be very much a northeastern, very cold
Tell me
weather
about it.
sport and everything like that. But now a lot of the teams that are doing well are in warm weather places. So when did this shift happen, and how did this shift happen? Because a lot of I know the players might be from Finland and some of the cold weather places, but in terms of the success, I mean, Florida has won 2 championships. Carolina has won one. There's been championships out of
Phoenix has a
everything
hockey
like that. So what's with the shift from to the south in
In
terms
the
of
old
hockey?
days, in the old days, all the sports leagues had 8 teams.
Yeah.
You know, and you traveled in the 30s. You traveled by train. You couldn't have a California baseball team because you could never get there. It took jet travel, and now the leagues have gone, you know, gradually from 8 teams in the 30s and 40s to 30 and 32 teams. Which
Expansion.
means,
The NBA is talking about expanding again. So
And I will say this: in the
So,
warmer
more money,
sectors, being on the ice rink in the middle of the day in the summer is actually feels pretty good.
yeah,
You know, for an hour. You know,
actually-
so their motive is, hey, I just want to be out in here and you know, so but the Miami Heat has been around a long time, and you know, I used to watch them when we got our own, the Canes. But hey, Jacoby, I want to congratulate you on your baseball card.
Hey,
Oh,
yeah, I saw that.
But the actual, to answer your question, Mark, the reason that shift, it's not really even a shift that's actually happening. What it is, the places that you're naming are money areas.
Right.
That's what it is. So places like Miami have a ton more money than a place like Winnipeg. So you're going to get better players because you have a higher, you can take the salary cap hit.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of that club management and the amount of money that you end up spending. So those players go where that money is, and that's where
South hockey should be played is Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really where you get your shift. But again, there's truly not a shift. It's just they're just more teams, and the places that you're naming are the money markets. The Rangers, they win. Yes, Carolina won, but Carolina, it's in terms of basketball, not a money area. In terms of hockey, it is. Because of the attendance numbers and the attendance records. Same thing with Miami. Same thing with the Florida Panthers. Same thing way out west with Colorado, the Avalanche.
Sharks. I've been to their games, and yeah.
Yep.
So,
So-
the money is huge. The Dodgers last year set a record for most. They sold 4 million tickets to their home games, all-time record. And the Dodgers take the money they make, which is a lot, and they plow it right back into the team. They've got one, and people say it's unfair because the Dodgers just spend a gazillion bucks to buy the best frickin' players. It's like the Yankees. They probably still do it, and the Dodgers come right back and say, yeah, we do. We take our money. We buy great players. Why aren't the owners in your town doing that? Why are they so freaking cheap that they don't want to compete?
And we talked about the underpaid women's basketball players. Well, the San Francisco Valkyries sold out every game, and they were an expansion team. It was their first year. It was unheard of. They made the playoffs, which was also unheard of. But the games are sold out. The ownership is making money, So there is money to be made, but there are owners that are very cheap when it comes to spending it on their players, and they push back when they have a collective bargaining agreement. Oh, I won't make as much money. Like, why do you own a sports team? It's like, for crying out loud, it can't be to make you more money. You're already filthy rich.
Now,
So-
they mentioned like Marco Wire and some other folks that are there. Hey, Kim, you said that when you were there in DC, I know you were there for Time Share Solutions and all along those lines, but you mentioned 2 events that were there as well, and you didn't really go into detail about them. But what was the Kite Festival, and was the Cherry Blossom going on at the same time, Kim? Because you mentioned this Kite Festival.
The Cherry Blossom Festival goes on for a couple weeks. From the beginning to full bloom. And I think we were in the midst of full bloom. We got kind of stuck there for the weekend because we originally started meeting with 2 senators for 2 days. But before we left, we got phone calls. Hey, can you stay and do, instead of just Wednesday, Thursday, and come and do something on Monday? And I'm like, well, can we just put everything on one week? But they couldn't. So we ended up staying the weekend, and it was beautiful. But the surprise was no King's Day, which I think brought more people than what DC is used to during this time frame, and it really kind of clogged the transportation system, causing you to have to wait an hour to get anywhere. But the Kite Festival to me is worth going back to. I've seen the cherry blossoms before, and they were beautiful, and I was glad to be there again. They were beautiful again. Mm-hmm. But that Kite Festival in the mall area was phenomenal. And I'm not talking about like the big kites like you see in the San Diego Kite Festival on the beach, with the kites that are bigger than buildings. I'm talking about hundreds and thousands of kids and families with different kites, and just out there enjoying family time and seeing these creative. Some people made their own kites, but there was just thousands of kites in the sky, and I get goosebumps thinking about it right now. I'm so glad that I was there to witness that. The No King's Day, I was very proud of the protesters. There were, I don't know how many millions of extra people there. I couldn't really quite get over there, and I'm kind of scared of big crowds. But they were so quiet, you didn't even know they were there, to be honest with you. I don't know, I'm glad that they unite and gather, but they're just so quiet, you didn't even know. And it was very clean after
they're old. Oh, just totally left the screen. I was saying that for his sake.
Yeah, and it was clean when they left. That's something I have to commend. I don't know if DC just has super guys that come out and maintain the streets real quick afterwards, but I think that there's a rule among the anti-MAGA group that does protest to leave the place, pick up after yourself, but don't be afraid to pick up after others, and leave the place as clean as you found it. And I have to say, I was very impressed with how clean everything was when I think people started to part ways. And they didn't stick around like lingering afterwards for a long period of time. They like dispersed, knowing that there are other things people need to do in DC. So I was comfortable with all of that going on. It was just hard for transportation. It was a very
That's to
challenge.
be expected with crowds, but there's nonviolent protests, which is the old way of doing it. And, there is massive outcry about having somebody ignore Congress, ignore the SCOTUS, and, doing whatever they think they can do anything they want to do. And and people are protesting that because the system that we put in place, the democratic valued system, almost 250 years ago, has been kept in place by checks and balances. And we don't want someone ignoring those checks and balances and asserting executive power above and beyond wherever it's meant to be.
So,
And you're right. Yeah, that's right.
215 days until the midterms. Tomorrow makes it 7 months, which makes it crazy to have a war going on that is raising oil prices, gas prices by the day. We're at 408. By next week, we might be at 420. By next month, we might be at 450 because May 1st, they go to summer weight gasoline, which is a gas that burns cleaner in the summer. May 1st is where a lot of states mandate that you need the cleaner gas, and that'll add, another 50 cents a gallon. So gas is going to be crazy. Then it takes 3 to 6 months for fuel prices to translate into higher grocery prices. So we are looking at 4% inflation at some point during the summer, and higher price, grocery prices continuing to increase through September at least.
Well, and to add to what you just said, I went to fill up my tank last night. I took the train back and forth, but I got home and realized I need to top off my tank because the gas prices are going up every day. And it had leaped from $4 a tank when I left to $4.64 when I returned. So it had already gone up 64 cents. As of like 2 months ago, I think I was still paying around a $3, maybe under $3. We tend to be high in Raleigh. I wish I could afford to drive out of town and get gas because it's nowhere near that price outside of the town. But 4.64, there are times that I looked up and saw $5.99 at some place
in California.
And then I got posted. Someone sent me a post that they're paying $7.40 right now. So
in California, before this started, you could get gas for under $4 a gallon. Now it's pushing $6 a gallon. And that annoys a lot of people. Trump, depending on which set of polls you look at, his net disapproval is 17%, some polls over 20%. That's the difference between the people who like him minus the people who don't like him. And he's at -17, he's at -20. And he doesn't care. I mean, well, he does care, but he does and he doesn't. From minute to minute, what he thinks changes, but it does make him kind of extra skittish. Like butter, like sliding around in a fry pan. You don't know where he's going to be.
Don't know what he's going to do. Don't know where he's going to say what he's going to do. Because, like I said, he was waving that sword around like a 6-year-old in the video that I saw and everything like that. So he's always doing some crazy things like that. But right now it's time for us to get on out of here. But I know we've got World Politics hopefully later today, and definitely Coco, and we've got some other shows coming, and I've got to run a couple of errands, including one to Hey Tessa. But I'll be back for the 5 o'clock show and other things as well. But right now, let's get on out of here.
Okay, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys. Bye-bye.
Same here.